to Refocused Radio. We are here today, and just like any other time, we have another show lined up for y'all. Today, we have a true honor talking to the founder of Gap Pros LLC, the one and only Malia Rogers. She has an amazing website. You can go to maliarogers.com. And what's cool about this is that we're going to be diving into the power of presence, connection, and bold moves. So we know someone who has a great expert insight on this. He has amazing resume, Amazon #1 best-selling author with Magnetic Allure, the blueprint to building a network of referral partners. She is a first-generation American and MBA grad. She's not just building businesses, she's building people. I could spend another 40 minutes on her resume, but I just want to first welcome Malia to the show and say, how you doing today?
Hey, Shamai, I am doing fantastic. Thank you for inviting me onto your show.
I appreciate you being on. Let's get right into it. When it comes to your business, before we start talking about different topics, kind of give us a little bit insight. What prompted you to start your own business, and what was the clients that you're trying to serve?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, Shamai, it is definitely a God thing. And it all started out, I was pregnant with my first child, and I prayed, hey, God, can you help me? I don't know how you're going to do this. Help me figure out a way to legitimately make money from working from home and being a mom, being there for my family. And literally, God handed me this business. So basically what happened was I met this gal from a previous job, and she called me out of the blue one day and she said, hey, I've been building this business, this insurance business, but I need to step away momentarily to take care of my family. And every time I prayed about it, like, what should I do? Should I sell my business? Your name kept popping up. So she said, Malia, if I show you the ropes, you can build your own business if you would just help me service mine. And so this is definitely a huge blessing for my family as well.
When you think about being magnetic, I kind of gave a teaser on the best-selling book that you have available on Amazon that people can get. We'll make sure we're having our show notes for those who are listening on radio. What does it actually mean to be magnetic on your terms when it entails business and life?
Yeah, so being magnetic, if you think about an object that is magnetic, it's like material or an object that other materials are drawn to them, right? So humans actually work the same way. And so I did grow my book of business by word of mouth, and we serve thousands of people nationwide, all without having to spend time on or spend money on marketing. And so the number one key I figured out was that you need to make yourself magnetic. You cannot force other people to bring you business. You could jump through all the steps that I outlined, the blueprint on how to build referral partners. But at the end of the day, if people don't know, like, or trust you, then they just won't send you business. And so you can work on yourself, and there are things that you can do to make yourself more attractive to work with. People will want to send business with you and want to partner with you.
When you think about having these qualities, are these qualities that you feel people are born with, or just something that over time that is something they build?
That's a great question. It's very encouraging. When I wrote this book, I spent a lot of time researching the science behind what makes someone magnetic. And it was encouraging to find that these are all traits that can be developed over time. And so most of the people that you see online, like social media, they actually, a lot of them claim to be unpolished and awkward at some point. But again, they worked on themselves, the characteristics, and over time, the magnetism grew.
When you think about some of the signs that come to a person's way as they're fulfilling their presence and just their overall image, at what point do you see, basically just with your personal experience and working with others, that these signs help them to understand that, okay, I can now shift into this new polished me versus the amateur.
Yeah, a lot of it is all mindset, correct? And the very interesting thing, there's science behind it where our skin renews, right, and rejuvenates, and our blood replenishes itself. And that's basically means that we were created and built for transformation. And so if you think about it, you can start today and make changes over time and be a completely new person, kind of like rebranding yourself within, as early as 90 days. And so that's the nice thing about it is that, like, for example, for me, I grew up as a painfully shy person. I was actually afraid to talk to strangers. And it wasn't until after college that I realized that talking to strangers was not so scary after all. And I didn't just one day wake up and decided I'm going to be a little bit more outgoing and talk to strangers. It was the little small habits that I implemented. And then over time, I had positive reinforcement. And then now I'm a completely different person I was, even 5 years ago.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guests today, Malia Rogers. You can go to her website, maliarogers.com. Let's talk about networking, because networking is something that it doesn't hurt anyone. It may be a learning curve for someone who's brand new to it, but maybe someone is thinking about doing it, stepping outside the comfort zone. What's some of the non-cringy ways a person can approach someone that they admire as far as trying to network with them?
Yeah, so you want to start with leading with value. Think about some of the qualities and gifts that you have and how you can help someone. Because when you're networking, if you are at an event and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, this is what I do, then it's going to be cringy, like you said, and turn them off. But if you take the time to find out a little bit more about them, then you can find out more about their needs and what you can do to help them or offer them. And people look at you differently if you are able to help them. So when you're at a networking event, the one of the rules that I would say is the traffic light rule. Because have you ever ran into someone who you're talking to them and they're just talking the whole time and they don't let you have a say in? Well, they overtake the conversation. And so the traffic light rule is where the first 30 seconds you're going to talk, right? And then the next 30 seconds, you're going to slow down because that's the yellow light. And then at the end of the full 60 seconds, you're going to stop and you're going to ask them a question. And if they want to hear more about what you have to say, they're going to ask you more. But most of the time when you're having a conversation with someone, they actually will like you more if you actually know more about them. And the way you're going to know more about them is to listen and ask questions.
And what you said, we refer that a lot of times in radio and podcast world as kind of like playing catch with a baseball. It's
Oh,
no fun if you throw the ball and the person runs away and never comes back. It's better when they stay and they toss the ball, throw the ball right back at you. So I agree with you on that, and that's a good segue in storytelling, because with your field, stories are powerful. They can help you make a great pitch. They can help you with closing a new deal. What some ways that you found storytelling just for yourself help shape people's opinions about your brand in good ways? So that way you have an opportunity to not just make an impact, but to close opportunities.
yeah. So this is a great question. Storytelling is very underrated. I think people are starting to talk more about it now, but thing you have to remember is if you cannot connect with your audience, whether your audience is your client or you're on stage, if they can't connect with you, then your message is going to fall on deaf ears. And that's why storytelling actually will make a big difference, because it's going to help people be able to relate to you or the person that you're talking about, and they can put themselves into the shoes as the hero or the heroine, right? So what you're going to do is, when you're sharing your story, it has to have a few elements. The first element is that there needs to be some emotional connection. Like, when you're telling a story, you're not just going to state the facts, right? And then you're going to, but it's going to be based on some truth. Because if you're telling a story and there's no truth to it, then it's not being genuine and authentic, and people will actually, they'll see right through it, right? And then you also have to have a call of action, because when you're telling a story, there's a reason for it. So for example, I'm in the insurance world. So when I say, hey, your policy won't cover you outside of network, sometimes people don't understand what that means. But if you tell them a story about how when someone wanted to go out of network and then the plan doesn't cover it, then it's like a light bulb moment. So definitely have those elements in your story.
When you think about, we kind of discuss overall building your network and networking, how to do it, and storytelling, all that jazz. But the next step would be, what are some of the things that you do to continue the growth of these new relationships? Because a lot of times, I mean, we all probably face in the business world, it's very easy to have like 80% of your new contacts be just contacts, and not necessarily be someone that you check in on, and actually deepen the relationship.
Yes, that's a really good point, and you're absolutely right about that. I think that the way that you will stand out is if you just out of the blue reach out to them and mention something that ties into what your conversation was about. Like, oh, you mentioned that you were going to DC this next week or last week. How did it go? And when you're reaching out, you don't have an ask. It's not like, I'm going to reach out to you only when I need something from you, but it's just a check on them. And you'd be surprised how rare that is, that someone will follow up and remember a conversation that you had with them. So you're going to stand out more if you can, even if you do it once or twice a month. Like, hey, I'm just thinking about you, here's a quote, or here's a book I read that you might enjoy.
When you think about risk, I mean, isn't everything that we do, we can't overthink it. We just have to kind of get through it.
Mhm.
But when you think of it as far as pitching and branding yourself as a business, what are some examples where you felt like, man, got that inner voice talking like, I don't know if I can get this deal. I don't know if I can get this person to commit. What are some of the things that you see in the process of coaching yourself through those fear points? Because a lot of times when we're trying to make a pitch, sometimes we have to get through that butterfly stage, if you will.
Yes. A really good point. So, because oftentimes we have clutter in our mind, fears and doubts that prevent us from pursuing our dreams and goals. And our brain is wired to protect ourselves and preserve ourselves. And so, a lot of times when you come up with a really great idea, if you don't act on it right away, your brain's going to start talking you out of it. And so I do personally use the 5 second rule by Mel Robbins. Are you familiar with that 5 second rule?
Mm.
So the 5 second rule came about when Mel Robbins, who's now a motivational speaker, there was a time in her life where she was super depressed. She could barely get out of bed. And then one evening she watched this commercial of a rocket being launched. And so that gave her the aha moment of, okay, when the next day when my radio alarm goes off, instead of hitting snooze, I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and launch myself out of bed. And so her recommendation is that as soon as you think of a rule, you need to count down like a rocket and start taking action. So if you're at a networking event and you see someone you really want to go up to introduce yourself, then you're going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and start walking towards that person. It really helps with procrastination too. You can apply this principle with anything, you know, sending an email out, say, okay, I was gonna, because we always put, you know, procrastination is very common. And so this is a way to get past that. So that's just one of the tips.
A lot of times we are in that state of mind where we're paralyzed by fear, and fear can uh, keep us from making these new relationships happen. And a lot of times those relationships can be the very thing that opens up a new door.
Yes.
And if we're not careful, we keep going around the same mountain. And it's like, hey, if you just kind of stick to it. I like that countdown from 5, because if we don't have that ability to make a decision, then we actually make a decision. Is what I say. We choose not to do anything, which is just as bad as not trying.
That's
So
cool. Yes.
my next question will be, when it comes to controlling our fear, because I feel like it's something that's natural. It's not something that we can just get away with. You're not human if you don't have any fear in you. But as a professional, though, how have you been able to deal with fear and address it so that way you can measure, okay, natural versus sabotage?
That is such a great topic. And you are right. It's human to fear. But did you know we're the only species that actually fear? Uh, like we actually make up things in our mind that we're afraid of. So, animals, there's a book out there called Zebras Don't Have Ulcers. And it's because when an animal is in a fight or flight mode, then it's because there's like a lion running after them. so so the interesting thing is that humans really are only born with two true fears. It's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else is fears that we've made up in our mind, right? So one of the techniques that I struggle with this too, like fear of criticism, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, and so there's so many, right? Those are the top ones I think that holds entrepreneurs back. But what I've been able to do is I face the fear and do it anyways. There's a book out there called that. And what ends up happening is, okay, I feel the fear, I acknowledge it, and then I push through anyways. And then usually what ends up happening is a positive outcome. And then you have this positive reinforcement. Because the worst thing that can happen is if you feel the fear and you do it anyways, and we're talking business world here, okay? Not like jumping off like a building or anything like that. You feel the fear and you do it anyways. The worst thing that can happen is if it doesn't work out, you just feel really crappy for a little bit. But you survived, you lived, you know?
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Malia Rogers. Go to her website, maliarogers.com. She's the founder of Many Gap Pros LLC. This has been a great conversation. I can't believe it's already almost 20 minutes. When you look at the fear of letting go, I like this whole theme of overcoming fear, because the other part of that is we're afraid to let go of things that no longer serves us. So with your professional experience and growing your brand, growing yourself, how have you been able to calm down the thoughts in your mind when you're in a tough position, fork in the road, if you will, where it's time to let go of things or people that no longer serve you?
That's a good one. So, Pastor Craig Rochelle, he has this really powerful analogy of climbing up a rope, right? When you're climbing up a rope, you don't want to let go because you don't want to fall. Nobody wants to fall. But if you want to go higher, you actually have to let go of one hand so that you can go up. So I have to always remind myself that if you want to go up, you have to let go. And that includes letting go of, like you said, toxic people that just drain and suck the life out of you, letting go of tasks that you can delegate. You know, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are afraid to let go because they feel like they have to do everything when really their business will explode if they learn to delegate, you know, or letting go of the fears and the self-criticism and the things in your mind, the clutter in your mind that tells you that you're not enough, you know. So just remember that it became my new mantra. If you want to go up, you gotta let go.
People love to see the idea come to life, but people do not. I mean, I'm first one to put my hand up, but people do not love the struggle that comes with it. And when you are called to do something, it comes with a lot of responsibility, but it understands, or you start to understand that the weight on your shoulders is for an actual purpose, not necessarily like, what was me? Like, why does everyone get to play outside recess while I'm stuck in the dumps trying to build this business or just build this brand or build my messaging, whatever you're trying to build? How do you overcome that way of overthinking uh, the process, if you will, of growing your brand, your business? Because a lot of times we want to rush it and we just want to get to the destination
Mm.
versus understanding it's going to take a lot of work with the vision that you have in place.
Yes, that's an excellent question. So I would say there's two things. Number one, you got to celebrate the wins along the way. So create the micro goals because your body doesn't actually know the difference between a small win versus a big win. And so if along the way, kind of like running a marathon, there's like mile markers. And as you celebrate the little wins, it helps propel you onto the next big thing until you reach your big finish line, right? And of course, the finish line could move, but it's kind of like how if you think about athletes who are just coming back from um, surgery, they're recovering from surgery, or they've been out of commission for a while, their coach will usually pair them up with an easier opponent because they want them to have that win so that they can get on this upward spiral, this winning streak, because it really does change the chemistry in your mind. So I would say celebrate your wins. You could write a success journal, like every day, write down some of the small wins that you've had throughout the day or the week. And then that way you can reflect back on that. When you're struggling, you're going through a rough time, or you're just feeling unsure of yourself, you can always go back and look at how far you've gone. And then the second thing is Ed Milet's The Power of One More. Are you familiar with his how he came up with that?
Oh, go ahead. I'm all ears.
So it's probably one of my favorite stories, but it's his dad was an alcoholic and was struggling with alcoholism, and he asked his dad. He said, "Dad, how long do you plan on staying away from alcohol?" And his dad says, "I don't know, son, but I'm going to do it for just one more day. Like one more day, I'm going to go without alcohol." And that day became weeks, and then months, and then years. And then fast forward, years later, Ed Milet was actually struggling through his business. And his dad said, "Son, how much longer are you planning to push through this business and work on it?" And he said, "Dad, I'm not sure, but I'm going to do it for one more day." And then that one more day, you know, turned into years. And now he's, a motivational speaker and very successful entrepreneur.
this kind of ties back into everything that we're talking about, full circle, being magnetic. And I'll remind the audience watching this online, listening on radio, you can get her book, Magnetic Allure, the blueprint to building a network of referral partners. When you think about the momentum shift, I like the whole idea that if you start to make someone's life better or you just do something nice for someone else, it
Mm.
kind of, by default, it kind of unzips the pressure, if you will, because now you're taking less focus on what you don't like and you're shifting your focus on just doing something positive. Have you found that when you help others, it kind of releases the pressure?
That is 100%. Yes, I found that to be accurate. If you look up a lot of the TED Talks out there, studies and scientific have shown that the quickest way to get out of a funk or negativity is to help others. And one of the influencers that I follow, Dan Martell, he says the quickest way to build wealth actually and to grow is to actually help others get ahead. Just like if you're teaching a subject, even if you're not like an expert at it, if you take the time to train others how to do it, then you become an expert at that. And so that is one of the traits that make you magnetic, is that you're the power of serving others, because we're always trying to work on ourselves, but a lot of people overlook that opportunity. When we serve others, we become more empathetic, and and I know it does help your image too, because if you're helping others, then they realize that you're not there. You're not in it for yourself. And so it is one of the traits that make you magnetic.
That was one of my last questions because in your bio, you still have time. I don't know how you have time, but you still make time to serve on both local and state boards of National Association of Benefits and Insurance Professionals. I mean, that says a lot. So if someone's watching, listening, wrapping this up, what was the last thing you would say to a professional out there in the business world? Why it's so important how they prioritize their times, because it's so easy to be like, well, I'm just busy. Well, that's an easy scapegoat, but what's some better ways that we can assess our time and how we manage it?
Yeah, so for time management tips, I would say, like you said, prioritize. So every day I have here's a non-negotiable list, and then here's the, okay, get it done if you can, and then okay, the third. So there's like three tiers of priorities. And it's super important, because if you don't prioritize your time, then your day is just going to run you. And so that's a very important key to being a successful entrepreneur. And then again, let go of things. If you can delegate it, then do it. I think the first time I was faced with the scary decision of hiring an assistant, it seemed scary because I feel like you're taking a pay cut when you're hiring someone, and I had all these fears in my mind. And then when I decided it's going to be worth it, I'm going to take a pay cut so that I could be there more for my family. The result was that I ended up almost doubling my business because I was much more productive with my time spent.
Once again, been listening on Refocused Radio, watching this online, talking to our guest today. Go to her website, maliarogers.com. She's the founder of Media Gap Pros LLC. Like always, want to say to you, appreciate your time.